In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this Daydreams crochet baby blanket. It has beautiful stitching with a single crochet along with a double crochet bobble stitch, which creates these beautiful raised clouds that I've created on this blanket. So to make this project, what you'll need is your crochet hook. I used a 6mm hook or J size. I like these Furls crochet hooks. They're just really nice to hold. You'll need scissors, a yarn or tapestry needle to weave in your ends. So I love using cotton yarn for baby blankets. It breathes nicely. So this yarn here actually my aunt gave to me because she inherited it. So it's this cotton in the color denim. Each skein has about 50 grams or approximately 73 meters or 80 yards. It's a weight for cotton. I have a post on my blog talking about, how to find cotton yarn that is sustainable if that interests you. I don't know if this particular one is, however, it was gifted to me. It was in someone's stash, so I would consider this to be using up my stash, which is, a sustainable way to crochet. Let's jump into the tutorial. All right, I'm going to demonstrate to you how we're forming the cloud portion of the pattern. The rest are single crochet stitches, so it's fairly straightforward. If you want to head to my blog, it'll be linked below for the full pattern. However, in this video, I will just be showing you how this is created. Right. So you need a starting chain of a multiple of 14 plus 4. I really recommend starting with a minimum of 74 chains. For this example, I'm just going to do 18, which is the 14 plus 4. Okay, I have 18 chains here. Alright, starting in the second chain from the hook, always, we're going to work 2 rows of single crochet. Alright, I have my 2 rows of single crochets here. Now we will chain 1 in turn. Now in the pattern, it specifies how many stitches over you'll begin working each time. So for our first cloud, we will work 1 single crochet in each of the 8 stitches across, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So we have our 8 single crochets across. Now we're going to start by working 1 double crochet bobble stitch. So to do this, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, right? Now you have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, insert into that same hook, or same loops, or stitch, sorry, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Now you will yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now that you have 4 loops on your hook, you will yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Alright, so you've just completed the double crochet bobble stitch, and in the next stitch we will work 1 single crochet. Now we'll work the double crochet bobble stitch again. So to start, yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then you have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now you have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4. Right? Now when we're working our single crochets in between our bobble stitches, because this is the right side of our work and we want these bobbles to stick this way instead of to the reverse, when I go to work my next single crochet, I kind of like to squish the stitch down so it comes in front of the work like that, rather than this. At the end, you can totally manipulate the bobbles to face one side of the work versus the other, so don't worry too much about it. But once you get going, it'll just become a habit to kind of squish it down in front when you're working on the front side. Okay, then you're gonna make 1 single crochet, and for the first row of a cloud we'll have 3 bobble stitches. So let's make our last one. Yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and you'll have 2 loops on your hook. Now yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now you should have 4 loops on your hook. Pull, loop through all 4 on your hook, making sure to catch all strands of your yarn. All right, then you're going to continue the pattern as instructed to finish your row. Okay, so I'm just going to work to the end of the row with single crochets, like so. Okay, then we'll chain 1 and turn. Now we're working on the reverse side of our work. When we finished last row, we added 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet. Again, follow the pattern. It specifies exactly how many stitches you'll work in between your clouds. Here on my little demonstration, I'm going to work over 3 single crochets, and now I'm going to work 6 bobble stitches in this row. Now because this is the back side of our work, we want our bobble stitches to be pushed to the front side, so behind our work, and we always work a single crochet in between the bobble stitch. All right, so let's go over that bobble stitch one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now you have 4 on your hook. Now you pull over and pull through all 4. Okay, and now this is what I mean by pushing your work to the front side, because we're looking at the back now. We want to press it down. Okay, and now we're going to work a single crochet in the top of that bobble stitch from the previous row. So you're going to always look for your V here, and that's where we're going to work into. So again, compressing that, inserting your hook into this V. 1, 2, okay? And just work your single crochet as normal. It's completely normal for your work to start pulling in like this, because the bobble stitches are a lot bulkier than the single crochets. Your work's just naturally going to want to coil in, but I promise you, as you work your blanket, it'll sit nice and flat. Okay, we're going to do the bobble stitch again. And push and do your single crochet. You're getting it into a really good rhythm. All right, I'm going to continue working across here. I'm going to work 4 more puff stitches and then finish the row with single crochets. All right, I finished those 6 bobble stitches, pushing them to the front side of the work. So if we just flip over our work here, we can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I finished the row with my single crochets, and in my little swatch I'm making, that was 3. However, like I mentioned, follow the pattern online and it will tell you exactly how many stitches you need to finish off your row. So we'll chain 1 and turn. Now this third row of our cloud also has 6 bobble stitches, but we're going to start the first one before the last one of the previous row, and then a bobble stitch. Again, pushing this kind of to the front of the work and making that single crochet in the top of the bobble stitch. Okay. Now you'll work your bobble stitch into the single crochet. One, 2, 3, 4, pull through, and single crochet. Oops. Remember, you're always going to be working a bobble stitch on top of a single crochet and a single crochet on top of the bobble stitch from the previous row. That's my third bobble stitch. Fourth, single crochet. It's my fifth bobble stitch, followed by single crochet. Now we're going to work our last bobble stitch. And we're going to find that V. There it is. And work that single crochet. Okay. All right. So you can see the cloud is starting to take shape here. Chain 1 and turn. You're always going to chain 1 and turn at the end of your rows. All right, now this row has 3 bobble stitches, and the first one is going to land in between the 2 last bobble stitches from the previous row. Okay, so we're gonna work a single crochet here, single crochet on top of the first bobble. Now we're gonna work that puff stitch into the single crochet that sits between the 2 previous bobbles. Okay, now pushing my work to the front, work that single crochet, and now a bobble stitch. Right. So we've worked 2 bobble stitches. We're going to work our last one here. Okay. Now we're going to finish off with single crochets. So you can see those 3 bobbles that we have here. Now this row, we're also going to work 3 bobble stitches. So far we have worked 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of our cloud. We have 2 more to go. So I've chained 1 and turn. I'm going to work single crochets over until the first single crochet before the bobble stitch. This is where we will work our first bobble stitch of this row. All right, I've worked over those single crochets. Now it's time to work our bobble stitch. So finding that single crochet there before this bobble stitch. Again, I'll show you that again. We'll start by yarning over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Right, one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through well. Right. I'm gonna finish these 2 last bobbles. Get some more yarn here. Okay, so 1, 2 we've just completed. Work that single crochet. Now our last bobble. Single crochet. Okay, so those 3 bobbles are complete. Our next row, we're gonna work our 2 final bobbles in between these 2 or in between our 3 bobbles. So you're gonna find that single crochet there, single crochet space there, and work your bobbles. So I'm gonna work the rest of this row, return with my single crochets, single crochet into the top of this bobble, and then start working my last row of bobbles here. Okay, I've just worked my single crochets, bringing me back over to my cloud cluster. I've worked 1 single crochet in the top of that previous bobble. Now it's time to work my bobble stitches. All right, let's finish this row here with 2 bobbles. Whoopsie, pulled an extra loop there. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull that through. Single crochet and a bobble stitch. Okay. Now you want to finish your row with your single crochets as instructed. So I'm going to do that. However, after I finish this row here, I'm going to go ahead and work 2 rows of single crochets on top of that, and then I'm going to show you how we work the border. So I've just finished that final single crochet row. I've taken my hook out. You've noticed I have not chained 1 to turn. Now this border is a join as you go, so you don't need to fasten off and rehook. We'll just start working the border once we're finished the blanket. So if we show you my blanket here, I'm not quite done the border yet, but you can see that this was my final row up here, and this is how we've started the border. So you work it across, and then we're actually going to do a rounded corner here. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that. All right, I'm grabbing my swatch here. I'm going to start working the border. So what you'll do is, for mine, I've decided this is the height I want. I'm working in the back loop of single crochets, kind of like how you would do a ribbing, but these are 3 stitches high. So to achieve that, I started by chaining 4. Now, if you want a wider border, you're just going to need to increase your initial chain length. Okay, so let's start by chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to work in the back bumps. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet in each back bump of this chain across, starting from the 2nd chain from the hook, which is this one here. Okay, so you're going to turn that around. We're going to find that back bump, insert our hook, and work that single crochet. Okay, and work my 2nd single crochet and my 3rd. Now 3rd can be a little bit tricky trying to find that back bump. If you need to twist your work around, that is completely fine. Right, there is my 3 single crochets. So we're going to turn our work here. Now we're going to skip the first single crochet stitch. The reason for this is because the chain that we worked initially, that chain 4, we're going to count as like the border piece for this first single crochet. So we've worked our 3 single crochets. We're skipping that first single crochet there. Now we'll slip stitch into the 2nd and 3rd single crochet of that last row. So insert your hook, pull up a loop, and then pull it through the one on your hook. Again, insert your hook, pull a loop, and keep pulling, right? There we go. Now we're going to turn our work. By turn our work, I mean like this, okay? We're going to skip those 2 slip stitches that we made. 1, 2. Now we're going to work single crochets in the back loops only of our border single crochets. 1 single crochet, 2, and 3. Now we'll chain 1 and we'll turn our work this way. This is a little bit different how I turn my work at the end of these rows. The reason I do this is because when I work back down, my right side of my work is facing me. When I do those slip stitches and I turn, then my back side is facing me. So the reason I switch like this as I work the border is because if I were to flip like this and like this, my work is constantly flipping over, and when you have a big blanket, it's just a lot of material to be moving. So we work those single crochets, now we're turning with our work facing us. Now, this is the first single crochet we need to work into, the second and the third. Because we're turning our work this way, sometimes the chain gets in the way of that and it's difficult to see. So make sure you don't skip that. So we're going to get in the back loop, which is all the way back here. Okay? It can be a little bit difficult to get in there, but you can do it. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Now we're looking here. We've worked a slip stitch into that single crochet. Sometimes this looks like a stitch that isn't worked, but it has been. So make sure you're aware of that. So we'll slip stitch into the next 2. 1, 2. Great. Now we'll turn our work. And we'll work our way back up, skipping those first 2 slip stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I just finished that third single crochet, working the back loops. I will chain 1, turn my work back around. Work down again, working the back loops. 1, 2. This one can be tricky too. 2, 3. Okay. Remember we worked into that one. So these are our next 2 stitches. Slip stitch, slip stitch. Okay. Turn and we'll work our way back up. So I'm going to work my way to the end of the row here, and I'll show you how that plays out. I'm nearing the end of my row now as I work the border. So I'm at the top of my border here. Let's work our way back down. Chain 1, we're going to turn, back loops only, 3 single crochets. Okay, so we reach the end. You should have 2 stitches left. We're going to slip stitch into those last 2 as normal. Okay, we're going to turn, work our way back up our work. Chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work 1 single crochet in each of the back loops back down. Now when we reach the blanket again, we're going to work only 1 slip stitch this time, and we're going to work it in that same stitch where our last slip stitch was worked. Right? So remember the last time when we came down, we did 2 slip stitches. We worked our way back up. Now we're back down. That same space that last slip stitch was worked, we're going to work this one. So get your hook in there, make a slip stitch. And we're going to work back up. Same way. So we're going to skip that first slip stitch and work 3 single crochets in the back loops only. Okay. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to continue working our border, making our way back down to our blanket as usual. So 3 single crochets, 3. Now we're back down to the blanket. As you can see, the border is kind of going past the edge of the blanket now. That's intentional. We're going to work a slip stitch into that same space we've been working in, right? So this will be the third slip stitch that this space receives. Okay. Now we're going to work a slip stitch into the next row or space on this blanket, which will be right here. Okay, see this row here, that's where we want to work in. So we're going to just work in the end, you work that slip stitch. Okay, now we'll turn, skip those 2 slip stitches, 1, 2, and work our 3 single crochets as we have been doing. This is going to start to pull the border around the corner of our blanket. Okay, chain 1 and turn. Okay, so you can see this is starting to take shape. We're going to work our way back down now. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now we're going to put our slip stitches in each row, 1 slip stitch per row of the blanket. So we worked our slip stitch into this one last time, so we're not going to work it in there. We're going to find our next row, which is this here, and put our hook in that hole, work a slip stitch. Now we're going to work our second slip stitch into this row, and you're going to work your way back up. 1, 2, 3. Okay, chain 1 and turn. Work our way back down. 1, 2, 3. Again, we're going to work our slip stitch. First one in this hole here, and second one here. And you'll continue working the blanket around as I've shown, like that. As you can see, once we're working the border, the blanket starts to sit really flat. This is our swatch. This is our tail from when we started of the blanket. You can see it really starting to take form. I'm just ending the border here, and I want to show you how to do the final corner. So we finished a row, border row that's got us up. Now we're going to need to chain 1 and come back down. As you can see here, this was our starting chain. You can see 1, 2, 3, and our turning chain there. That's what we worked the initial border into. So we want to be able to find the final row of our blanket here. If you pull your work a little bit like this, you can kind of pull those stitches apart and see where we worked into. So these holes here are where we worked our slip stitches into when we were doing the blanket. Yeah, these ones here. Okay, so it looks like there's about 1 space left here on the side of the blanket that I'm going to slip stitch into, and then I'm going to work a slip stitch into that first single crochet of the blanket that we had skipped when we were starting the blanket there. All right, so at the end here, you're going to slip stitch the last side space of the blanket, and then we're going to find that hole. That's the first single crochet of the blanket. That's here, and we'll slip stitch in there. Okay, now we will turn our work and work those 3 single crochets, skipping the 2 slip stitches. Okay, chain 1, turn. We're going to work our way back down. Now we're going to work only 1 single crochet, or slip stitch, sorry. So we're going to work it in that corner, turn our work. This is our corner border that we're working now. So work our 3 single crochets, chain 1. Now it's time to close off the border here. So there's a couple of options. The first one is working a regular row of single crochets back down fastening off, leaving a long tail, and then stitching your blanket together, that would definitely work. However, I think I'm going to join these with slip stitches. So you have your border, you're going to close it up with the right side facing you. You're going to line up those seams together like this, flip this over. So now you're on the back side of your work. Okay, so you're going to grab the front loop of that first starting chain, the top there. Okay, and you're going to grab the back loop of your border row. We're going to work a slip stitch. Here we go. Okay. Again, we're going to grab that loop here of our starting chain, this loop, our final row, slip stitch. Now this last one might be a little bit tricky to see. If you need to push your work forward like this, open it up, that might help. Okay, so you want this. Ideally you want this loop here. So we're gonna try our best to grab it. It's a little bit tricky because it wants to face forward. Okay, got that. And then this loop here. Work a slip stitch. Here we go. Okay, so now we're gonna fasten off there. I might like to sometimes end with a chain just to secure, make it extra secure. And I'll cut that and fasten off. I want to flip this over and just show you how that looks, that corner row. It's pretty neat. I don't think you can really tell there's a seam there. I just wanted to show you how I'm weaving in the ends. So start by getting your needle on your hook, and then you're gonna weave your ends to the back of your work. So I can see the yarn is coming out of these stitches here. So I'm gonna weave in the yarn between this space here. Having it on the back side of your work, since this is kind of a one-sided blanket, just lowers the chance of any ends poking through the front. If you're weaving your ends properly, you shouldn't worry about that anyways, but we're just taking an extra measure of caution here. At the end, I like to weave my needle between, like, in the middle of a strand of yarn, just to make it a little bit more secure. I wanted to take an opportunity here and show you how to weave in your ends if your ends are situated within one of your clouds. So we're going to approach it the same way as we did the other one. You're going to want to thread your needle and start with getting your end to the reverse side of your work. So as I can see, my yarn's coming out of this stitch here. I'll give it a little tug to make sure it's secure, and then find a space to weave it in the back side. I'm just actually going to work in this chain, or this single crochet space here. Now we're on the back side of our work, and we're just going to thread in as usual. I prefer to try to get into the area where there are single crochets rather than the cloud formation, where the single crochets are going to hold your ends in more securely. We can see. All right, so I'm going to start by making my way down to the single crochet row. All right, we've made it, and then just as usual, I'm going to thread my needle under some of my loops. Make sure it's not pulling your work, it's sitting at the same tension that your stitches are. I'm going to weave back through like this, and then back again. As you may have noticed, I'm making sure that I am leaving, so I came under this loop here, so when I go back I'm going to go over this loop like this, and since I want to trim it I'm going to just go through some pieces. But anyway, why we go over this loop here and when we're under is that our end is going to catch this loop, and it's going to be less likely that the ends are going to be able to pull through if we do that. Okay, just give your work a little tug after to make sure your ends aren't pulling your work, and trim.